What's up, movie lovers? I'm Mike, and this is Gotta Love Them Movies. Oh, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Gotta Love Them Movies, your daily dose of movie news. I'm your host, Mr. Mike Brown. I'm here all the time, and I am so glad and delighted. Here, let me adjust my screen a little bit. I'm so glad and delighted that you've taken a little bit of time out of your busy day to spend with us and just talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And helping me talk about all sorts of that good stuff is one of my best friends on planet Earth. Holy cannoli. This guy and I, Josh and I, go way back. We go way back. We've known each other for, since 2004? 2002. I think we met in 2002. So here we are, an 18-year relationship. We were roommates for 12 years out of those glorious 18. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for one of my best friends on planet Earth, Mr. Josh Hurley.
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here on your show.
Woo-woo.
Gotta love them. So it's always exciting to be here and be on the inside of things.
Ooh, being on the inside of things. And speaking of being on the inside of things, ladies and gentlemen, as always, this is the bane of my existence. Is when my streaming software likes to resize my guests' windows. So if you ever see me, like right here. Here's a perfect example. My window is this big right here. Josh's window off to that side is ginormous. So let me just kind of scale this down just a little bit so we can have things be all equal. Again, these are the joys of doing a live show. So Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself. You were on the show once before. You were debating some movies against our resident champion, Kay Hartman. You're an improviser, you're a comedian, you're an actor, you're a voiceover artist. And now that I've told everything about you, tell us about yourself.
That's it. That's all there is to know. That's all. There's not much exciting about me. Just that. That's about it. Yeah. I'm an actor, performer, improviser. Like I said, we've known each other for, 18 years now. That's wild.
I know, right? Almost 2 decades.
Crazy. Time freaking flies by. Yeah. So, yeah, that's me. I mean, I just a big dumb goof who just gets lucky to do stuff every now and then. That's about it.
I would not describe you as a big dumb goof. You're a goof. I wouldn't say, not sponsored is Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper, one of my favorites, DDP. Anyway, guys, this is a movie show. We're going to talk about a few movie things, but before we do, I highly encourage you to go over to youtube.com. Type in Gotta Love Them Movies. In the top right-hand corner of the screen, you will see a little button that says subscribe. Go ahead and click on that button. What clicking on that button does is it helps us to widen our subscriber base. But Mike, you say, we're watching the show on Facebook Live. Why do we have to go over to YouTube and click on your red subscribe button? Well, Pierre, it's really rather simple. Thanks for asking that question, Pierre. With the more subscribers we have, the more watched content on that the channel gets. And with more watched content, the more ad revenue I receive. And the more ad revenue I receive, I get to make this show my full-time job. So I very much appreciate your support. If you go on over to youtube.com, type in Gotta Love Them Movies and click on that red subscribe button. And as always, as soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers, this show will move from Facebook to YouTube. So just something to be aware of in the future. All right, guys, with all that down and out of the way, it's time to take a little bit of movie news.
What?
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 All right, you guys, let's jump in with a little bit of movie news, and our first bit of movie news comes to us from Deadline. I'm sure you've heard of the very popular game show Let's Make a Deal. Well, Let's Make a Deal has been on a slight hiatus, as have most game shows, but they are coming back with an all-new format. It's a socially distant format. They are keeping their contestants separated from each other. Normally, the theater holds 175 people, and if you're in the audience, you have a shot at Wayne Brady going around and picking people out of the audience to win some great prizes. Or maybe a zonk. Who knows? You could get zonked. You could get a car. You could win, $25,000. Anything in between, right? So Let's Make a Deal has been on hiatus so they could kind of figure out this new socially distant format so they can keep the show going, but also, keep people safe, because 175 people in one theater jam-packed together, yelling and screaming and high-fiving and sneezing and coughing all each other, maybe not the greatest idea right now. Well, they went ahead and they figured out a great format for the show. They have 12 contestants in the audience, and then they have two giant panels. You can actually kind of see in the screen here. On stage, they have two giant panels made up of nine. How should I explain this? Sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. You have two giant windows on the back screen. Each giant window contains 9 people in the audience for a total of 18 people in the audience, plus your 12 contestants in the studio. I have a very unique perspective on this because, ladies and gentlemen, as it would just so happen, I got to be one of the 18 people in the audience for Let's Make a Deal. That's right. Last week, while I was in Florida, of course, like I've told everybody, I was in Florida visiting my girlfriend's family. And one of the days was one of the filming days that Let's Make a Deal asked if I could be a contestant or a potential contestant on the show. As it turns out, it was just an audience experience. I've signed a few contracts. There are certain things I can and cannot talk about. But, it is a wonderful, wonderful thing that we get to have Mr. Josh Hurley here with us on the show, and we can get Josh's perspective about this. Now, Josh, you're hearing about Let's Make a Deal coming back. I know you're a huge game show fan. When we were living together, we used to watch game shows all the time. We would watch, obviously Let's Make a Deal and The Price is Right and Match Game and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You yourself were a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And, first of all, how do you feel about a more socially distant version of a game show coming back? Do you think it's going to work the way that they plan it's going to work? And as a viewer, does this excite you?
It's a good question. That's really cool that you got to be in the audience for this, or that you got to sort of be a part of this, the new frontier of game showing, I guess. Yeah, like you said, we're huge game show fans, so I think it's cool. I think adaptation is the name of the game right now, and if you can adapt, great. And if you can make it work, great. I think game shows are tough because it is sort of an energy sort of thing. That the audiences are a big part of game shows. There's really not any game show that I think has ever existed. Maybe there is, that doesn't have a studio audience. And I think having that energy is important. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But we've obviously seen with other shows, with late night shows, with talk shows, how they've kind of gotten around that, how they've creatively gotten around that, and they've been able to sort of imbue it with energy, whether it's having staff members and a few people peppered in here and there. So I think I think it could work. I think it's just a matter of, will the audience enjoy the same format? I mean, Let's Make a Deal is a very sort of character-based interaction with the host and then the people who are dressed up in these crazy costumes. So really, I don't know. I don't think it's super as heavily audience related as maybe other shows might be. So I think it could work. And Wayne Brady is obviously a fantastic host and is great improviser, so he knows how to make that work. So I think it'll be fun. Yeah, absolutely. Again, right now, 2020, adapting is the name of the game. So if you can do it, you can survive. That's
true. I think that's a fair observation. Adaptation is the name of the game right now. And, as you say, I was able to be one of the audience members, a potential contestant. Spoiler alert, I was not chosen. But it was interesting to see how the new show is running. And, I'm not giving any secrets away because, as this article from Deadline points out, everyone who is a contestant, or rather, everyone who's in the audience in person in the studio, and like I said, there's only 12, every person in the studio will have a chance to win money or a prize or something like that. And again, as the article points out, one person per episode who is at home will also have an opportunity to play some of the games and to win big money or prizes or something like that. So, like I said, 12 people in the audience, everybody gets a chance to play. One person from the virtual at-home audience gets a chance to play, but only one. You have 18 people up on screen, and only one person gets chosen. So that part, I was like, hey, wait a second, But, that being said, it's an interesting process to see everything behind the scenes. I think it could work pretty well. The first episode is already dropped. I'm not in the first episode. In fact, I'm not entirely sure when the episode that I'm in is going to air. Probably in the fairly near future. The first episode is already dropped on CBS. Go look it up. It's live streaming now. It came out 2 days ago, I think, on October 27th. So, 3 days ago. Today's the 30th. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, but big question for you guys is, are you excited to see Let's Make a Deal return? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear if you're a game show fan. What's your favorite game show? Are you looking forward to seeing the episode that I'm in? The answer should be yes. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, our second bit of movie news today it comes to us from Variety, and this isn't the best news I've ever heard. It's not the worst news, but it's also not entirely positive. It would appear that Netflix has decided to raise their prices. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. Netflix is one of the streamers that is doing extremely well right now. Netflix, Amazon Prime, they're killing it. Apple TV Plus, they've got incredible content. CBS All Access, which I think they just renamed or rebranded themselves to Paramount Plus. Something like that. It's going to take effect soon. HBO Max is killing it. We have all these streaming services. Disney Plus, they're all killing it right now. Disney Plus, I wouldn't exactly say they're killing it. Mandalorian Season 2 just dropped, and so yay. But, whatever. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. Everybody's doing pretty well for themselves from a streaming perspective. But Netflix has now decided to take their most popular subscription plan and up it by a few bucks. I think it was $3. They've raised it now $3 to $14 a month. Is that something that's going to break the bank? No. I mean, if you can afford $11 for a streaming service, chances are very likely you can now afford $14 for a streaming service. But now from Netflix's point of view, things are starting to go up. This is the first price increase that we've seen in 2 years. In 2 years for this particular plan. I mean, is Netflix getting a little greedy? I mean, the reason that they said that, for the price hike is so that they can continue bringing high quality shows on the same level that we've all come to expect and know and love at the same level, and regular content as well. Or is this just Netflix saying, you know what, we're going to take advantage of this terrible situation? What do you think?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know, because I think there's a lot of factors at play here. I think Netflix is, like you said, it's this giant company that is doing very well. So it's kind of the idea of, do we expand and continue to grow, or do we kind of stay at where we are right now? I think they're producing a lot of original content, which obviously costs money. I don't know how much of that original content is being produced at the moment, considering the pandemic. It would make sense that in order to producing more, would need more and more capital to do so. I don't know how much sort of like movie studios they do with loans and things like that, and then pay that back. But Netflix has really produced a lot of stuff, so I don't think a few dollars can be. I mean, it adds up to about $36 to $40 a year per subscription if it's $3 per month. So that's an extra $40 out of your pocket per year that you weren't already taken out, and during a pandemic, again, every dollar can count. So hopefully, I feel like sort of putting their money where their mouth is and really putting out a lot of content might make that price hike a little easier to swallow. Like maybe getting a really couple some more hot properties that people really love and doing some, I don't know, either hate saying reboots, but doing some things that people are like, oh yeah, I definitely want to check this out. Like how CBS All Access had Twilight Zone.
So, something that's maybe a little bit more of like a guaranteed like comic book movies and things, like, you know, those are going to make money. So, or like sequels, you know, that you can expect a certain amount, like a price range. Well, may not hit this, but we may definitely hit in this range.
And I think I'm amazed that they canceled the Dark Crystal. I think just
Yeah.
from that was good, and like what a no-brainer to keep that thing. And like you could be socially distant when filming it because they're puppets. You know, I mean, I don't know how the machinations of that work, but I feel like
Well, you know, being that they are puppets, you could potentially, like, everybody keeps their masks on. Everybody, you know, voices their lines as they move their hands, but then do ADR for it, because ADR doesn't need to be perfectly matched up. That's the kind of property. Same thing with animation. You can do ADR for it, no problem. Keep, whether you're socially distant or not, everybody can keep their masks on and just muffle the sound as you're recording.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it would seem that if they are going to take some properties, like that's a great one to sort of like as an example of like, here's a hot property people know. Here's something that's really cool that we can do that's original, that's uniquely us. Here's something that like people love. It's Jim Henson, you know.
Well, you know,
I
Glow
mean,
was another one that got canceled too. You know, you want a
yeah,
property to keep people around. The reason that they said that they canceled Glow was because it was too expensive. You have too many main characters and they're all on set at the same time. So with all of the new COVID and coronavirus protocols that you have to go through quarantine, you have to get tested, you have to get your temperature taken every single day, possibly multiple times a day. I don't know how that works. I haven't been on set of a production like that before, but that was the reasoning that they gave, was that it's too expensive to continue making, and they were only going to do one more season. They just wanted one more season, and it got canceled. And now here we come to find out, oh, well, you know, because this is not news that just came out of nowhere. Netflix yesterday did not say, you know what, let's go ahead and do a price hike. They didn't decide this yesterday. They knew this was coming. They announced it today, but they did not figure this out yesterday. So they knew it was coming. So with shows like Glow, or even, you know, that were recently canceled, and Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal prequel show that everybody universally loved. Everybody loved The Dark Crystal. Everybody loves Glow. Not to mention any of other, you know, high-profile shows or things that have been canceled. Why are they canceling if they're gonna eventually make more money? Like, they're gonna get their money back. And this is not the climate. You can't blame it on the climate, because the climate is helping your business model right now.
I feel like you're absolutely right, and I think producing brand new content would seem to be a little bit more difficult because you have to assemble the cast, you have to create the show, you have to sort of come in with new production design, you have to do all this sort of thing. Whereas Glow is a sort of certified, sort of like Netflix property that people love, that kind of another universally loved sort of property that all they ask for is another season. And this price hike is a perfect example of how they could justify giving them another season, giving people what they want. And you know, it's amazing to me, like, why as a company you want things that are associated with your brand, right? Like, you like, oh, Netflix has got this show that nobody else has, and Glow's definitely one of those shows. So maybe they'll surprise us and say, hey, now that we've had a price hike, like, we are going to produce that. But you know what? That's what it's for. If it's a good show. Now, I don't know the numbers. We don't know the exact viewership numbers per se of what people are watching and what they aren't. But certainly, I mean, Ratched, for one thing, Ryan Murphy's show.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Schitt's Creek now is, I believe, #1 streaming in the world right now. And am I correct? That's on Netflix.
Well, it's a Canadian show, so it was on the Pop Network. But yes, Netflix has acquired it, and you are correct. It is the #1 streamed show in the world right now.
So, like, I feel like Netflix has this great opportunity to sort of like, okay, like, these are our properties, like Ratched, again, produced by Netflix, Ryan Murphy. I don't see what the big deal is. So they are producing some unique content. But give people what they want. Give them the shows they want now. If you're going to charge them a little bit more, then keep the shows around that people like. That's my only thought on that for
Yeah,
sure.
I agree. Question is for you guys, what do you think? Are you okay with like a $3 price hike going from 11 to 14? Are you okay paying $14 for your subscription service? Are you a little upset that Netflix didn't give you a little bit more heads up? Are you upset that they're doing this at all? Do you think that this is necessary, especially in the wake of them canceling shows like Glow or The Dark Crystal? How do you feel about this? Or do you feel that they're completely justified? Are you okay with contributing a little bit more to helping, if these COVID protocols on set cost as much as, we're being told that they do, are you okay paying just a little bit more to help cover some of these costs and keep the same quality of shows that we've come to know and love? I would love to hear your thoughts. Jump down to the comment section below. All right, guys, let's move on to our third bit of movie news today. And our third bit of movie news, there's a new movie coming out called Mank. It is essentially based on the life of, what's his name? Mankiewicz. I had his first name perfectly crafted in my brain. I can't think of it. Josh, help me out.
Sorry.
Well, here it's in the article, so let's just scroll down here a little bit. It's the new film by David Fincher. If you haven't seen the trailer, drop what you're doing and go see it. Just watch this trailer. Come back to this video and pick it up from where you left off. Herman Mankiewicz. Herman Mankiewicz was a real-life, not just character, he was a real-life human being who helped write the script for the extremely critically acclaimed film Citizen Kane. Now, Citizen Kane is not, full disclosure, it's not my favorite film of all time. It is critically regarded as the best movie ever made. The greatest movie ever made, Citizen Kane, kind of universally accepted as the greatest film ever made. I take issue with that. I don't think it is the greatest movie ever made. Some people are in agreement with me. Some people disagree with me. That's fine. All film is subjective. But here's the thing. Orson Welles almost exclusively gets all credit when it comes to the writing of the film, of Citizen Kane. He was, I think, 21 when he made this film. He wrote it, he directed it, he starred in it, he produced it. That alone, take any one of those four things that I just mentioned. That is an incredible feat for a 21-year-old to do. To star in a major film, to direct a major film, to produce a major film, to write a major film. Any one of those things is an incredible feat. And he did all four of them. With the exception of possibly writing the film. There's a little bit of controversy here, and that is what this movie is about. This movie follows not the adventures, but kind of the story of Herman Mankiewicz, as he went by the nickname Mank, kind of his story. And over the years, there have been some challenging reports coming out saying that Orson Welles didn't write as much as we all would like to give him credit for, right? Herman Mankiewicz was the one who actually ended up writing the movie Citizen Kane, and this film by David Fincher explores that story. Josh, first of all, are you familiar with this story? I know you've seen Citizen Kane. I think we've actually watched it together a few times. We have thoughts and opinions on that.
I was not aware of this. I always, like a lot of people, I thought it was written by Orson Welles as well. And I just looked at the IMDb, and Orson Welles is credited first as screenplay, and then Mankiewicz. So he's still top billing, at least in IMDb or Wikipedia, but as having first billing on writing. So I wasn't aware of this person at all, honestly, until you had mentioned him. So this is all very big news to me.
Yeah, it's the kind of news that some ways it kind of feels like it just came out of nowhere. Like if you are a huge Citizen Kane fan, if you're a huge Orson Welles fan, you probably were already aware of this controversy, I guess. Or maybe already aware of the story, but as some of these reports that have been coming out over the past 80 years, 70 years, however, because the film was made in the 30s. So however many reports have been coming out over the decades, which probably not that many, but enough to substantiate a very decently sized claim that maybe Orson Welles didn't didn't write as much of the film as we would like to think. Now, Josh, did you get a chance to watch this trailer at all before we started talking about it, before the show?
Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I did not. I was just looking at. I kind of saw our topics, but I did get to see the trailer. Having said that, I did go back and kind of look at some of David Fincher's stuff, and I was like, I feel embarrassed that I wasn't as familiar with some of his work until I realized what he had done, and I was like, oh my gosh, of course, David Fincher's amazing. He did all these amazing movies, especially in the '90s. I feel like was such a hot decade for him. Fight Club and one of my personal favorite movies of all time, The Game, starring Michael Douglas.
Good.
A brilliant movie. It's such a fun, just a well-filmed movie. Anyway, so I kind of got reacquainted briefly with everything that he had done, and I was like, oh yeah, this is just on that alone. Seeing a David Fincher movie, yes,
well,
please.
I mean, like I just looked up his filmography here on IMDb. I mean, let's go backwards for a second. I'm only gonna list the big projects that he's been working on. Mindhunter, the television show on Netflix, wildly acclaimed Mindhunter, Gone Girl, House of Cards, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Zodiac, Panic Room, Fight Club, The Game, Seven. He did Aerosmith's Big Ones You Can Look At back in 1994.
Video when it came out when I was like in 1990.
Right? Alien 3, there's a huge controversy about his version of Alien 3. I mean, like, his credits just go on and on and on. He's an acclaimed filmmaker. He's genius. He's brilliant. He does incredible work. And if you look at this particular film, the way that it's filmed, it's all black and white. It has that 1930s kind of feel to it, like late 30s, early 40s, even maybe a little bit of the swinging 20s. Is that what they refer? The Roaring 20s, excuse me, has a little bit of the Roaring 20s feel to it. Old school Hollywood. There's a shot in the trailer where you can see Hollywoodland up in the Hollywood Hills. It's a beautiful looking film, impeccably well acted, at least in this trailer, by, Amanda Seyfried. I can't think of his name. The dude from Game of Thrones, Lannister, Papa Lannister, his name. That guy.
Oh.
Tywin Lannister? That guy.
Oh.
And, obviously the titular character, played by, why am I forgetting everybody's names? Gary Oldman. I mean, this just looks like a brilliant film, an Oscar contender to beat. Yeah, I don't have any other thoughts about it. It just looks like a brilliant trailer. Josh, any other last thoughts?
Well, I did relook at Wikipedia. He is listed. Mankiewicz is listed as the first writer, and then Orson Welles. So maybe it was IMDb, but. So it seems like he is sort of at least credit. It's not like he's like lost to history, but maybe just to the sort of public knowledge, the public idea of that. And you see, I feel like you're seeing a lot of that recently. Like a while ago, we went to the Museum of the Moving Image, and there was a presentation of Creature of the Black Lagoon in 3D, which was really cool. And I had never seen it all the way through until then. It was so good. But there was an author there, and I can't remember the name of her book. But she talked about how the creation of the creature from the Black Lagoon was largely not misaccredited, but sort of like forgotten, that this female makeup artist was sort of forgotten throughout time, and he was the person who made it took all I'm not articulating this well, but the person who got all the credit was not her. So the whole idea is that like it's great that sort of these stories of old Hollywood are coming out of like, hey, we revere this person for this thing, but really it was kind of this person, or really it was this group of people, or really like let's give credit where credit is due kind of story, which I
And I
really like.
feel like in American culture, it's very typical for one person to say, "Hey, I did all the work, and I'm going to take all the credit." It's that I talk about it as the John Wayne kind of factor of we love to have these American heroes, and oh, it's such a wonderful thing that one person did all of these great, big, huge, wonderful, amazing things, and oftentimes that's not the case. Very famously, Ian Fleming, this actually took him to his grave, but for the writing of the book Thunderball, just before he wrote the book Thunderball, he had a party over at his house. A whole bunch of friends came over. One person in particular, Kevin McClory, the two of them started spitballing ideas back and forth, which eventually became the foundation for the book Thunderball, which eventually became the movie Thunderball. So when Kevin McClory took Ian Fleming to court over this and said, no, 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 you did not write this story solely by yourself. I helped infuse a lot of ideas here. That trial in that court case was so stressful to Ian Fleming. That's eventually what gave him his fatal heart attack. The stress of it was just too much, and he died from it. So
Wow. There's
say what?
Oh, sorry. I said, oh, also there. I just learned that there was with the movie, the original Addams Family movie. Paramount, I think it was Paramount. They got into a big scuffle with the original writer of what was the writer producer of the TV show because the names like Gomez, Morticia, all the sort of the relationships and stuff that they had, and Thing, all came from the show itself. And I don't think, and there was a big, they settled out of court, I believe, with Paramount and the writer. But there was the idea that like, hey, those were all my sort of creations, and then the movie just kind of took those and ran with them, and I didn't get any credit for that. So there's definitely that sort of like idea there that like, okay,
yeah, like all that is to say is that like it's great that a lot of these stories are now coming out, and we can kind of retcon what we believed to be true with actual truth, and again, who knows what the actual story is here. I mean, this could be a complete fabrication of the truth. Probably not, because again, like why would this story be told now if it didn't have the basis or foundation of truth in it? Question is for you guys, what do you think? Are you familiar with the story of Herman Mankiewicz writing the movie Citizen Kane? Are you looking forward to the movie Mank as much as I am? Because this movie looks beautiful. Now, yes, the film is coming out on Netflix in November, I believe, but it's getting a theatrical release as well on December 9th. So if you are close to a movie theater, next week I'm doing an editorial, or rather I've already recorded an editorial, but I will be releasing an editorial of my return back to the movie theaters. I feel safe. If you feel safe, I highly encourage going back to the movie theaters to see this film. It looks like the kind of movie that can only do justice. It can only do justice to the film, to the story, to the acting, to the experience in theaters. So anyway, guys, like I said, I want to know what your thoughts are. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know what those are. All right, guys, we have one last bit of movie news before we move on and take your emails. And this movie news is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. It's not exactly from The Hollywood Reporter. It's kind of all over the internet, but the very popular video game franchise Assassin's Creed, back in 2016, we had a live action adaptation of the video game into a movie starring Michael Fassbender. It did not go over so well. Anyway, over at Netflix, Netflix and the game developers Ubisoft have combined efforts, and they're going to create a sort of cinematic universe. It feels like every single day, every corner we take, there's a new cinematic universe being announced, right? And this is the newest one, Assassin's Creed. They're going to do essentially a series of films and more so television shows. And that's what they are specifically working on right now, is developing a television show kind of in the same vein of The Witcher or there's another video game franchise that just got announced for a television show. I'm not a gamer. Full disclosure, I'm not a gamer. I don't like video games. I don't enjoy playing video games. This could be cool if they do it well, right? And I guess that same sentiment, that same idea can be laid upon literally anything. Hey, this video game franchise could be cool if they do it well. This superhero thing could be cool if they do it well. This movie about Facebook could be cool if they do it well. You can apply that sentence to literally anything. But the thing about this is that video game adaptations traditionally are terrible. And there's kind of this idea of a curse, the video game movie curse, right? We thought we were going to break the curse with Warcraft. The World of Warcraft. Nope, that movie was pretty bad. The Super Mario Brothers movie was so atrocious. Nobody even attempted doing video game movies for a very, very long time. I think it's safe to say, Josh, that the current state of things in terms of like video game adaptations into movies, probably the best ones have been the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie and Tomb Raider, the new Tomb Raider with Alicia Vikander. So far, in my purview, those are some of the best. Maybe a case could be made for Resident Evil, like back in the year 2000 or something, with Mia Jovovich, I think. Video game adaptations traditionally do not work. The Witcher on Netflix has had a decent go of it. It's not my particular favorite show. I don't enjoy the show. I've stopped watching it. But other people seem to like it. So The Witcher will continue on. And now we're getting kind of a universe-ish kind of thing with Assassin's Creed. Josh, how familiar are you with Assassin's Creed? And do you think that world lends itself to decent storytelling in this regard?
So I do love video games, and especially the older stuff. All the Nintendo properties and all the, kind of my era of growing up and stuff. So I'm very partial to anything that's made or remade into those. For instance, Legend of Zelda, I hear, is getting a treatment, which I'm really excited about.
That has been in development for years. I highly doubt that that's actually going to happen anytime soon because we haven't had like any real traction in that IP. I would love to see Legend of Zelda. If they did kind of like a Lord of the Rings feel for Legend of Zelda, I think that would be perfect. But that hasn't gained like any actual traction.
Yeah, and so I mean that I think TV is a perfect place for video game adaptations because they can sort of expand on the stories that are already being sort of like beloved by people who already played the game, and it can introduce the characters to these games, and it only seems to be a win-win for the video game company and the production company if they make them. So, having said that, Assassin's Creed, I don't know that much about it. I know it's a very beloved property. I know people love this game. It's really popular. I haven't played it personally. I see, why not? I think one thing that I always loved, that I always thought was really cool, was Stephen King was once asked, how do you feel about your movies or your books being turned into movies? And he said, I don't mind it. And they were like, well, what if it flops, or what if it's not that great? He goes, honestly, if it flops, it only makes the book look better, and the book's always going to be there. So no matter what, no matter how bad a movie is, you'll always have the book. And if it's a success, it's only going to pique more interest in the books. Therefore, it's only going to make that sort of connection stronger. So I love that sort of ideology of like, look, if it obviously sucks for the production company that fails in this venture, like as we saw with, like you said, with Super Mario, as a kid, I remember watching that, and not thinking it was particularly terrible, but not particularly loving it. But now I watch it and I'm like, oh yeah, obviously this is not great. Woof. But so I think there's that. I think there's always the video game. If you don't like the series, you can always go back to the video game and just love that thing, the original product. But But I guess that kind of goes with anything. Having said that, there are some successful things that you talked about, you know, and also another one is Castlevania, which Netflix produced,
Yeah, that's
which they,
right. The anime show.
yeah, and they took their own spin on it, and they made it really serious. They made it into a drama, like a legit sort of heavier horror drama sort of
Mhm.
thing. Um, and you know, and it seems to work. I think they're on season 3 now, so that seems
Yeah,
to
it's doing
be
okay.
doing. Yeah, so I think it's possible, and I think it's fun, and I think it's absolutely something that people can get behind if it's like you said, if it's done well, if it's done with a vision, if it's that weird tricky balance of like comics and hot properties and things like that. That's like you got to serve the fans who love it, but you also have to bring something unique and you know fun to it. Otherwise, it looks like you're just sort of like serving up rehab
Now
material. So it's a
here's a
weird.
question that I want to ask you, and I'm going to bring up the numbers here on screen. The Assassin's Creed movie that came out in 2016 with starring Michael Fassbender. The ads for it looked decent. They looked okay. But if we actually look at the numbers that came in, Assassin's Creed only made $125 million, or rather, sorry, it made $240 million, but the budget of the film itself was 125. The IMDb score, it gave it a 5.7 out of 10. It got an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Metacritic score is a 36. Now, this movie lost money. This movie it lost a lot of money. On a $125 million budget, it only made $240 million. Now, some people might hear that and say, well, Mike, it made money. It did not. It cost $125 million to make the movie. But if nobody knows about it, nobody's going to go see it, right? So now you have to market the movie. You have to promote it. Whenever you promote a movie, you need to double the budget of whatever it is that you spend on it. And that's how much money you need to spend marketing your film. So if you spend $125 million making the movie, you have to spend another $125 million marketing the movie. So now we're up to $250 million. And then you have to pay the people who are showing your movie. Movie theaters, the exhibitors, on average, they get about 1.5% of the box office sales. Up, on average. So if your movie costs $250 million, between marketing and the actual making of the film, you need to pay the theaters about 1.5%. So in this scenario, that comes out to $375 million. In terms of movie making, it's a little bit on the lower side. It's not an Avengers Endgame. It's kind of right in the middle. Avengers Endgame was a $250 million budget film. This is only 125. It's a decent budget. It's not a low budget, but it's also not a super crazy high budget. So in order for this film to just break even, it needed to make $375 million. It only made 240, which means it lost about $130 million. The amount of money that it cost to make this movie, it lost more money than it cost to make. So just putting that in perspective for a second. And like I said, combined with its Metacritic score of 36, it only got an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. 18% does not indicate the quality of the film. It just means 18% of critics who saw it liked it. That's all it means. But on IMDb, it did get a 5.7 out of 10 score. So Josh, with all these scores and these numbers and everything that we're throwing around here, is this a smart bet? It seems like this is a risky bet for Netflix to take. Like the movie, and granted, the movie and a television show are two very different things. With a television show, and Netflix has a great track record of storytelling in television shows. Their movies, not so much. But their television properties, they do pretty well on average. So given that this movie, the 2006 film, lost so much money, it lost more than it cost to make the film. Is this a smart thing for Netflix to roll the dice on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that's a big business decision. I think it's just, I mean, greenlighting something and then kind of putting your time, effort, money, and attention into it is always a risk. And we've heard time and time again that nobody, like the secret in Hollywood is that nobody really knows what makes a hit. You know, it's like we don't know exactly what people are going to love, what makes Mortal Kombat get 3 sequels, and what makes, you know, this other movie, kind of this other video game movie, or what, Mario Brothers kind of just, without these huge budgets. Granted, artistic quality plays a big part of that, and like certainly like how people respond to that. But having said all that, I mean, it's always going to be a gamble. Any property, especially when you're setting off with a new property or a new property that is already beloved or is known in some way, it's always a risk, no matter what you do. Having said that, it's how much of a risk do you want to make? How much money are you going to put in this thing? I go back to the idea of like the 1989 Batman. Like that was kind of a big gamble for Warner Brothers. I believe it's Warner Brothers, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big gamble for Warner Brothers to put so much money into that superhero movie, right? Because at that time, I mean, we think superhero movies now, of course, obviously. I feel like the 2000s and the 2010s beyond were like the decade that will be remembered for superhero movies. But back then, it was a bigger gamble, and it paid off. Now, had that not paid off financially at the box office, would we see as many superhero movies even today? I don't know, maybe not. But nothing cries let's make more than success. So since when Batman was big, it's like, great, let's make some more Batmans, let's make other superheroes, let's do this. So when one studio sees one studio go, hey, we made a success with this video game movie, now we want a property that we can make a video game movie that's going to be successful. Maybe this Assassin's Creed came with a big sigh of relief when they saw Sonic, and they saw Sonic was successful. I don't know how successful it was, but I believe it was considered financially successful.
Sonic made a little bit of money. It didn't make a ton of money, but it didn't just break even. I think they made just enough back to consider. I mean, they've already greenlit a sequel. Sonic 2 is in the works now. So, I mean, it was successful enough that, they're going to do a sequel. I don't know. I look at something like this and I think, is this the right call? Is this the right property to do something with? Or, I mean, maybe, Josh, to your point, they could have seen like the success of Sonic and said, you know what? Let's try and stay in this genre. Because Assassin's Creed, I think they have, 11 video games that have come out in the past 10 or 12 years, and they've all been wildly successful. So again, maybe one shot in the dark isn't enough. Maybe they need to keep doing this, because again, like, if we Josh, to your point, the superhero genre, it didn't start with Batman 1989. You need to have a few misfires before you figured out the formula. So I don't know, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they need a few misfires here. Question is for you guys, first of all, are you excited for this? How much are you looking forward to the Assassin's Creed television show and or universe that they're gonna try to craft and create? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. In addition to that, do you think it's smart for Netflix to take this kind of a gamble? Do you think this is a safe gamble for them to do? Or should maybe they try a different property? Again, I'm interested. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys, so that does it for our movie news. We do have one email question to take today. And if I can find this email question, where is it? Here we go. If you guys want to get an email question on the show, all you have to do is email me anytime, 24/7 at gottalovethemmovies@gmail.com. Send me an email. Send me your movie questions, your movie comments. Is there a little bit of movie news that I haven't heard about yet? Go ahead and email me at gottalovethemmovies@gmail.com. Additionally, maybe if you want to be a guest on the show, hit me up at gottalovethemmovies@gmail.com, and we'll see about making you a guest on the show. All right, guys, so with all of that finished, let's go ahead and open up the Gotta Love Them Movies mailbag. right, you guys. So let's open up our first email, or rather our only email of the day. And this email comes from Tawny, who lives in Seattle. How you doing, Tawny? And Tawny writes, Mike, you're a big soundtrack and film score guy. That is correct. I am. So what are your top 10 favorite Halloween-themed movie soundtracks? Ooh, that is a great question, Tawny. Thank you so much. And yeah, for anyone who knows me, I have an insatiable love for film soundtracks. Yes, I mean, like Guardians of the Galaxy has probably one of the best soundtracks of this decade. But even more than like soundtracks or songs, I'm into film scores, you guys. I love me a good film score. And I believe the other day on the show I was talking about The Fugitive. The Fugitive was the first movie that I can recall like really being sucked into the music of the movie. Oh man, like just that boom 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 boom, you know, that, oh, so good. It's music adds so much to a film, and anytime you listen to it afterwards, it can only remind you of the good parts of the movie. And of course, like sometimes a great movie has terrible music, sometimes a terrible movie has great music, and we get all sorts of gradients in between. A great movie can have great music, Back to the Future, or a terrible movie can have terrible music, The New Mutants. Anyway, so as per the question from Tawny, tomorrow is Halloween. Today is Friday the 30th. Tomorrow is the 31st. Tomorrow's Halloween Day. So in the spirit of Halloween, yeah, let's kind of go through some of my favorite Halloween scores. Now I'm just gonna do a few honorable mentions. I've listed my top 10. They're in no particular order, but before we get to the top 10, I'm going to do a few honorable mentions. First of all, Stranger Things. Wow, what a great score. What a great score to a television show. Now, the reason that it's in my honorable mentions is because Stranger Things is not a movie. It's a television show. But the score that was put together by Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein it's glorious. It's fantastic. If you get a chance, go and check it out. If you haven't already, add it into your iTunes or Google playlist because it's fantastic. Next up on my honorable mentions, again, not a movie. It's more of an experience. That would be the soundtrack to Disney's Haunted Mansion. Every Halloween, I have to listen to this whole album on repeat. I love the music from the Haunted Mansion. It's one of my favorite rides of all time, period. It may be my favorite Disney ride. Of all the rides and all the attractions that Disney's put together, the Haunted Mansion just might actually be my favorite attraction at Disney World or Disneyland or any Disney property, period. And the music is just, mwah, oh, it's so good. It has that light, creepy feel and being voiced by Paul Frees. Oh, it's so good. I have one more honorable mention to mention, and that, again, not a movie, but it is the classic song Thriller by Michael Jackson. Now, of course, very famously, the music video was directed by John Landis of early 80s comedy fame. And actually, he directed An American Werewolf in Paris, and by some considered the greatest horror film of all time, or maybe their favorite horror film. He went on to direct the music video of Thriller for Michael Jackson. It's a brilliant music video, kind of a short movie, in fact. Josh, before I get into my top 10 film, oh man, where did you go? I just had you. There you go. There's Josh. What do you think of the honorable mentions that I have placed before the audience so far? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I love Stranger Things. I think the soundtrack is it's kind of spot on with what it's trying to achieve, which is sort of that retro, again, very sort of like 80s, 90s, 80s, 70s sort of horror, John Carpenter, Stephen King vibe, which I really dig, and I think they really kind of nailed that sound, which is the synthesized sort of horror, minor dissonant chords, which I really love. Well played. And of course, I mean, I think Thriller is definitely considered one of the classic horror songs slash musical videos of all time. I think it was I don't know if it's the most played music video, but I think it's like, it has so many accolades in that regard of like the most this and the most
I
that.
could see that. I could definitely see that being the case. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's great. I think they're spot on.
Cool. Well, let's jump in. So Thriller, Stranger Things, Haunted Mansion, all being some of my favorite honorable mentions. Let's jump into my first film soundtrack, The Shining. And again, these next 10 are not going to be in any particular order. I love them all so much, kind of equally, but these are my favorites. On my phone, on my computer, I have my Halloween playlist, and these are all listed in, again, no particular order. I just love this feeling of eerie, creepy atmosphere that this particular music creates, and The Shining is absolutely no exception. It delivers. It's actually based on a classical piece of music. If you're not familiar with it, that dun 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 dun. The classical piece is done in bells. So when Stanley Kubrick, I can't remember who actually did the music for The Shining, but when Stanley Kubrick hired the composer to do it, they transferred that music from bells in a major chord to horns in a minor chord, and it makes all the difference in the world. Josh, I know this is one of your favorite movies of all time. What are your thoughts on the soundtrack for The Shining?
Oh yeah, The Shining is. I mean, Stanley Kubrick's notorious for having his hands into every part of his production, and I think music was no exception. I think he was very specific and selective about what he picked. The music was apparently by Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind.
Oh, thanks for looking that up.
Yeah, but however, a lot of the pieces were hand chosen by Kubrick and are not, I believe, I could be wrong about some of this, but are not original. They're pulled from different sources and different styles and different composers. Like you said, that one is a classical piece that was sort of altered and modified and modulated to fit the purpose. There's another great piece, and I can't remember the name of it, but by Stein, I believe is his last name, Stine or Stein, and it's the sort of those. It's when Danny and Jack are like having a conversation in the hotel room, and it's that like those like sort of elongated strings that.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Classical piece, and it's again just perfectly chosen. That score is creepy, scary, and it's hard to put your finger on too. Yeah. You can't really be like, here's the theme to The Shining, other than the opening credits. What other music can you sort of go put my finger on it? Which is great. That movie, because it's a very sort of like,
it's just chilling. It has that chilling kind of feel to it, haunting even. Yeah,
there was some pieces were very like rhythmic and mechanical, like the the when Jack goes a little crazy, and then other pieces were very sort of symphonic and like the opening score.
Yeah.
So it's weird, dissonant style too, which is great. This, you can't really pinpoint this is the kind of style it is, which I love too, and just
it's fantastic. It's like I said, it's in my top 10. It's one of my favorites. Moving on to my next favorite film with the best Halloween inspired score is this film is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. That is Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. The score, of course, very famously made by Bernard Herrmann. Bernard Herrmann worked very closely with Hitchcock in many of his films. In fact, Bernard Herrmann actually created the theme to Twilight Zone. So if you're familiar with the theme to Twilight Zone, that was Bernard Herrmann. Bernard Herrmann, very, very well known for his minor chords and that creepy atmosphere, that feeling of, unsettling, of not being safe. Very famous, that it's just strings on a violin making you feel unsafe. And I love the score so much. I love the movie. Josh, quick thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bernard Herrmann is you could do worse than to just go down a rabbit hole of Bernard Herrmann music. He has that signature style of the sort of repetitive melody that kind of goes on and like over and over again to sort of create that eeriness. The do 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 with Vertigo, the
Yeah.
do do with Twilight Zone, with Psycho. It's the bump 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 da da da.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
A lot of phrases to the sort of like the tension building of it, and it's beautiful. His music is perfect and beautiful. I mean, I think it's just it's you can't go
Perfect and
wrong.
beautiful. That's how I like it. My next movie that I have on the list is Creepshow. Like again, you talk about atmospheric music. This is it. Like this is it. I know that Creepshow and Tales from the Crypt, in terms of their musical stylings, are very, very similar, and I'm sure one has inspired the other, and then back and forth. Creepshow, of course, just got a reboot on the Shudder network streaming service on Shudder. They're doing a reboot of Creepshow, but the original Creepshow, the theme, the ending theme to Creepshow, just that dum dum dum. It's heavy, but it's light at the same time. Josh, I know you are very familiar with this theme. In fact, you have actually written your own version of Creepshow, or rather your own theme in the style of Creepshow. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I just love it. I think it's such a just a nicely constructed, fun. It's a perfect, again, tonally it fits perfectly with the movie because there's this sort of like comic bookiness about it that it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's still really scary, which I love. And I think just the kind of style that it is with the pianos and the weird sort of tension and the even like the thunder and the lightning and stuff. It's all just so great. It's just really well constructed. And yeah, I kind of wanted to try my hand and see if I could create something in the same vein, in the same style as that. And it was really fun to sort of try to pick apart the song and go, oh, here's this part and here's this piece, and you just see how nicely it's constructed and how fun it's constructed.
And I think you hit
Again,
the nail on the head. It's a fun theme, and it's a fun musical journey to add to the film.
yeah, and it's not something that people go, what's the theme song to Creepshow, and they're gonna hum it. But it's one that you go, like when you listen to it, you go, yes, that it hits the nail on the head. It delivers on everything it needs to.
It's not something that you can hum, but when you hear it, it's instantaneously recognizable. You know immediately what it's from. It's great. My
Great.
next movie on the list is the score to The Sixth Sense. Now, The Sixth Sense came out in 1999. I think I was 16 years old when this movie was in theaters. I wanted to go for my birthday. I begged my parents to take me to the movies, and I couldn't even make it through the film. This was the first, it may be the only film I've ever walked out of. It may be the only movie I've ever walked out of. It scared me so bad. And the score by James Newton Howard 100% contributed to this factor. If it weren't for the score, it's just this dark. This is the music that makes you feel dread inside of your heart. And I love it. It scares me to death. Even now, when I go back and I re-listen to it, and I listen, of course, every Halloween season, I always have to go back and re-listen to The Sixth Sense, but it terrifies me. How, Josh, on a scale of 1 to 10, how scary do you find the score to The Sixth Sense?
To be dead honest, I'm trying to like remember exactly. I remember specifically watching that movie and feeling like that feeling, and I feel like that The Sixth Sense is. I mean, it's sort of.
So the score it does a lot of piano. It does like a lot of individual keys, like doom 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 doom. Like so there's like slight melody to it, but the thing that about the score that really creeped me out is it has these violin trills that happen unexpectedly. So it's not like. In music is a standard musical fashion. It's when the monster jumps out and scares you, it's right. It scares you, but with these trills, it's that da-na-na. That's it. That's all it is. It's just a quick violin da-na-na, and you like it comes out of nowhere, and now you're looking around the movie theater thinking like, what just happened? Did I miss something? Something ominous is here in the room with me and I can't see it. And it's the music that makes you feel that feeling or puts that thought in your brain. That's what makes it really creepy to me.
That's a really good point. Like the score for soundtrack should serve the movie, right? And so to be able to do that properly, like it's not all about itself. It's more of just sort of serving that. So like you said, it didn't need to do a whole bunch with it. Like you said, with the trills were very effective to you, obviously. Just the little like, what it needed, no more no less. And you know, I just remember watching that movie, and certainly the score contributed to the dread of that for me too.
All right, guys. My fifth soundtrack that has brought so much happiness and joy to my life. This, I mean, you're seeing it on screen right now. It's the soundtrack to Halloween. John Carpenter, low on money, low on production budget. He didn't have the money to go out and hire himself a proper, musical composer, so he did it himself. He got himself a synthesizer and a piano, and he figured out a little bit of musical melody, and it has now come to become one of the most iconic horror themes of all time. Just that you have the sound of a heartbeat in the background, and the heartbeat is driving the music. It's so recognizable. Everybody knows it. Josh, this was the first song that you ever taught me how to play on the piano. I don't know if you realize that, but that is true.
Yeah, it's a fun song it's not too hard to learn on the piano. You just a few keys and then just kind of like back and forth. But yeah, that's the brilliant, like, I think some of the most genius and brilliant things are some of the most distilled and like simple things. And I think John Carpenter just had such a brilliant and simple score with this. But the beauty of it to me is this sort of relentlessness of it. It's just like you said, it just keeps going. It doesn't stop. And that's kind of like Michael Myers of like, he just keeps coming and he doesn't stop and he keeps following you. And it's like, what a great sort of like, I don't know, maybe I don't even know if that's what you intended, but I just feel like that's such a nice thing of that. It's just, like you said, it doesn't stop hitting, and it's just so good. And with the opening credits of just that, like the pumpkin and just the slow fade into it is just such a perfect dread builder. Like it's just,
it really is. It really is.
It's like the most recognizable for a reason. And he went on to score other things too, all very good. Like I think he did The Fog. He did a whole bunch of his other movies.
Yeah.
Another great song.
Josh, for my sixth movie, and again, in no particular order, Josh, this is one of your favorite horror movie properties of all time. I don't even need to tell you what it is, except for that, I'm going to let you introduce it. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Josh Hurley talking about this particular film soundtrack. Josh? Are you there?
That's what I think.
Yes, what do you think it is? Yeah, what do you think it is?
What do I think it is? Sorry, yeah, because I was like, I don't know what it is, but I think I'm assuming you're talking about Charles Bernstein's beautiful score to, well, beautiful is again a weird word, but it's the classical music of it. Just the perfect score for Nightmare on Elm Street.
That is correct. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Josh, take us through Nightmare on Elm Street. What makes this such a great score?
I think this has all the elements of makes you sad. Yeah, this is a great score. It's got all the elements of great horror. It's got the dissonant minor chords. It's got a very recognizable theme. I think Freddy's theme is it's that bum 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 bum. It's just a great theme. And then there's a real dark sort of like bass tone underneath of it, especially at the beginning.
It's interesting you say that. I would actually argue this is probably the darkest of all of the musical scores that I've listed in my top 10 favorites.
Yeah, it's really dark. It's really heavy. There's some nice. It's got 80s, some synth in it, and it's just. Yeah, it's great. And you can kind of tell a score by how much they sort of reuse it. Like, again, with the Addams Family, it's like everybody knows this, because it's so iconic. Same thing with, they use this theme throughout all the movies, like all 7 movies. Not the remake, but whatever.
I feel like of all the other songs and all the other scores that we've talked about on the show today, and we still have a few more to go over and to talk about. While yes, a lot of these fill you with dread and creepiness and atmosphere, I feel like the soundtrack or the score or the theme to Nightmare on Elm Street is the only one that feels evil. Like there's something in the music that genuinely feels evil.
It's very evocative. It certainly is. And I think that's what, it's just this, I love it for Halloween for that reason, because it's just so evocative of dread.
I agree.
And so Freddy's a bad dude. And, in the first couple movies, he's a legit scary bad guy. After a while, he kind of got a little comical and he got a little bit here's some puns thrown at you and stuff. But it really is a legit scary movie. And so I think the music just really hits at home. And like I said, it's really dark and scary and creepy.
And speaking of dark and scary and creepy, that leads right into our next soundtrack. That is for It Follows. This music was done by is it a band, Disaster Piece? I'm actually not familiar with Disaster Piece, but it was written by Disaster Piece. It has that dark melody of bum ba da da dum wum bum ba da da dum wum. It's and again, I'm not doing it justice. I'm just singing a few notes. But it's what I love about this soundtrack is yes, it was written in 2015, 2014, something like that. But it is Josh previously was talking about how evocative Nightmare on Elm Street is. This score is evocative of an old school 80s theme. It has that classical kind of 80s synth kind of evil dread vibe to it. It's wonderful music. It's great for creating atmosphere. Josh, you were the one that introduced me to It Follows. I still haven't watched the movie because terrified, but the music is beautiful.
Yeah, it's great, right? And you're absolutely right. It's so evocative of the 80s. What I love, I think I remember reading an interview with the director where he said in the movie itself, it's hard to place what kind of world this is because there's a lot of weird things that that don't belong. Like there's a weird shell phone in it that's kind of like, this doesn't really exist in the real world. So he kind of keeps you in this weird dream state. And this music kind of does that too. I believe Disaster Piece is just a person. I believe it's just one person who creates all this on,
like Moby.
But exactly. And there's a piece on it called Detroit on the soundtrack that I have a hard time listening to.
That track is really scary.
And I have to be in a well-lit space to listen to the soundtrack sometimes because it really does creep me out. But it's just so good. It's just perfect. It's just the 80s-ness.
Well, that particular track you're talking about, Detroit, I think part of the reason that particular song is so particularly terrifying is because it overwhelms your senses, right? There's certain parts of the song or the track that become explosive to your ears and it disorients you a little bit, especially if you have headphones on. It's a creepy feeling not to know your surroundings, and the specific notes that they use messes with your inner ear a little bit. So A, you tend to feel off balance ever so slightly, and B, it's so loud and so overwhelming, you begin to have lack of awareness of what's immediately around you. So having that sensory deprivation a little bit, it's terrifying to have that jump inside of you. And speaking of terrifying and jumping inside of you, this is not terrifying. However, it's something that I love so much. It is Harry Potter. Come on, you guys. John Williams, how can you not love the score to Harry Potter? That dun, 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 dun. Is this scary? Is it creepy? No, not really. and especially in John Williams' third outing in the Harry Potter franchise, was it Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, is probably the darkest of all the scores, but it's fun. It's a fun Halloween kind of romp through music land. When Harry Potter came out, I loved the movie. I was blown away. I was totally brought into this universe, and I not just wanted more, I felt like I needed more. I needed more Harry Potter, and large in part of that was the music. Josh, I know you're not the biggest Harry Potter fan in the world, but you're definitely familiar with, obviously, John Williams and his score for Harry Potter. Quick thoughts.
I think of all the things I know about Harry Potter, I feel like the score is one that I instantly can go, yes, that's it. John Williams is, like you said, John Williams is, if he's attached to something, it instantly elevates it, no matter what it is. And it's magic. John Williams creates magic, magical music. His music is like, that's that aspect of Halloween where I feel it's like magic of like, you listen to something of his, it's just got that, it's embedded with that sparkly magic of whatever he's. It's true, and this is that dun 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 dun. It's just, it flows so nicely, and it feels wizardy. It feels magic.
It's whimsical. It's very whimsical.
Yeah, he just can't. I feel like he literally, even if he tried to do wrong, he couldn't. I don't know. He's just so good at what he does, and it's just, this is a perfect example of that.
Now, speaking of whimsical, in John Williams in the 80s, I would venture a guess there were 3 composers from the 80s that really made it big, really made it huge. Obviously, John Williams. Obviously, John Williams. Second, I would say Alan Silvestri. Can you guess who my third choice is on this short list, and what movie I'm about to choose next? What do you think?
Okay, so Alan Silvestri and John Williams for the 80s. We're talking, right?
80s moving into the 90s, yeah.
90s. I want to say, what's his name? Yes. It's got to be.
Got to be Danny Elfman. And which Danny Elfman scored film do you think is next on the list?
I think. Well, he has so many good. He's got Batman. He's got, of course, so many great ones. But I think for Halloween wise, I think it's got to be Beetlejuice.
Josh Hurley knocking it out of the park. Beetlejuice, a classic, iconic score. It's fun. It's lighthearted. Yes, it has all that fun from Danny Elfman's Oingo Boingo days. It's bombastic. I dare say this is the most bombastic of the scores that I have listed. That dun 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 bum 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 bum. It's just it is a ride. Like, this is a musical roller coaster. I love the movie. I love the music even more. It adds so much heart to the character of Beetlejuice. By the way, why is Beetlejuice? That question was never answered in the movie. Why is Beetlejuice? But he's there. But yeah, this music it's fun, it's exciting, it's entertaining, it's lighthearted, it's slightly creepy, but it's very atmospheric, and it's a lot of fun. We have one more movie to go, but before we move off to that, Josh, your thoughts on Beetlejuice?
Beetlejuice is great. I mean, you're right. It is. It's in your face. It's, again, the theme is sort of that Beetlejuice sort of like grotesque, sort of like arrogance of like, yeah, come on, like Showtime. It's Showtime. There was a story. I'll probably get it wrong, so look it up on the internet and it'll correct me. But I think they wanted something like, because Beetlejuice doesn't appear until like super late in the film, like a lot later than the film than they wanted. So Danny Elfman's, the theme of Beetlejuice is the theme of Beetlejuice. Like, the character's theme is the movie's theme, right? So I think they superimposed the theme song onto the title credits. They had something a little slower there, but they were like, we need to hit that theme because it takes forever to get to Beetlejuice. So the fact that theme is over that weird, like, slow rolling thing, it's that weird audio visual dissonance that's such a nice thing, and I'm so glad they did it that way.
It's just a lot. And to incorporate daylight come and me won't go home, like, to take such a happy, fun song and to incorporate it not just into the movie but into the theme of Beetlejuice. Like, that's how the movie starts. It's this slowed. Have you ever heard the slowed down version of Jolene by Dolly Parton? You know, they slow it down by, I think it's like 1/8 of a second or something like that, and it adds this whole nuance to the song that was never originally intended. And by doing that same thing with I can see his face perfectly in my mind. Who originally sang Daylight Come and Me Won't Go Home? Oh, I can't think of his name.
Question.
He's Jamaican fella. I can't think of his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it was so brilliantly crafted. And you, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to our last film, one of my favorite horror themes of all time. It is from the movie The Exorcist. Again, this is a movie I will never watch. I am terrified of this stuff. This subject matter scares the living crap out of me. So no, I will not be watching this movie anytime soon. Thank you very much. But the music is haunting, and it's like, I knew the theme long before I ever knew that it was associated with this movie. So when I found out that it was associated with this movie, it just kind of gave me the chills, like, ugh. But again, it has this, the theme song to The Exorcist is called Tubular Bells. Tubular Bells. And it does have like that kind of chime bell sound in nature to it. It's haunting. It's not the scariest theme I've ever heard, but boy, oh boy, does this just add a lot of atmosphere and kind of dread. It's kind of, I dare say, gross. It kind of leaves you with some gross feelings. Josh, you've seen The Exorcist. I know you've never seen it?
Well, so here's my story too, is that movie creeps me out too, to the point where I've only seen clips of it. I haven't sat through the whole movie, and I don't know if I will. Same thing with Hereditary.
Good.
I can't. For some reason, that movie just makes me go, I don't know if I can see this, which is fine because I love horror movies, but it's
gross.
Scary.
Gross. No, thank you. But yeah, I love this theme. So this is my rundown. Let's just do it real quick. Recap. So again, my honorable mentions of Stranger Things, Disney's The Haunted Mansion, and Michael Jackson's Thriller, directed by John Landis. Moving into the movies, The Shining, Psycho, Creepshow, The Sixth Sense, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, It Follows, Harry Potter, Beetlejuice, and of course, The Exorcist. Josh, without taking up too much time, are there any movies that I left off this list? Anything that comes to mind that you're like, oh, this is one of my particular favorites?
That's a great point. I think you had a brilliant list. I think it's like there's so many good things. Again, and I think the thing is too with this list is you can go to that composer and look at their other stuff and go, yes, like this, their other stuff is just like, it can be evocative too. So I think it's a great list of like not only great scores themselves, but also great composers who make those kind of songs. I think one for me personally that's not on anyone's radar really is Mark Shaman, the score to The Addams Family and Addams Family Values. It's actually it's such a beautiful score. Like if you actually just listen to the soundtrack, it gets such a beautifully written score, and it's like, it's dark, but it's like there's a lot of romance to it, but there's a lot of like depth to it, a lot of style and substance in terms of like, I feel like he went back to the 1920s and 30s a little bit, and 40s even, to sort of get some of that. Like, I don't know. I think it's a soundtrack that I bought as a kid that I actually listened to a lot because I just loved it. And I would sort of like create scenes in my head based on the music, just because I thought it was such a cool score. So it's a weird, like, underrated one that not a lot of people probably even know about or care about. But Mark Shaman's The Addams Family scores, I think, are just great. But I think the list is perfect. It's a great list of horror music. Also, the Wes Craven's New Nightmare is also a great score. It's not Charles Bernstein, but someone else. I think Robinson is his name.
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, Wes Craven's New Nightmare also has a really good score that I used to listen to a lot when I bought for Halloween and stuff and listened to it. It's really well done too.
Cool.
But yeah, I think is the only thing I'd say is like kind of an obscure thing that I really love.
Well, the big question here for you guys is, what are your favorite horror movie songs or scores or movie themes, I'm very interested to know. If you can, look them up on YouTube and post the links down below. Of course, like I'll be posting links in the description of this video for all of the soundtrack, specifically individual score songs or pieces or tracks that speak to me for each of the films that I have listed. And I'm very curious to hear what your favorites are. So again, jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with all that down and out of the way, we have a couple of live questions to take. We're not going to take up too much time, but let's jump in and take some of your live questions.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Go in and take some of your live questions. Let's get Mr. Josh Hurley up on screen here. Cool. So some of you have been firing in some live questions throughout the show. Not a lot, and they're from a very good friend of mine, Danny Duran. Danny, in fact, Josh, do you know Danny Duran? Here's the thing. Myself, Mr. Josh Hurley, and Mr. Danny Duran, we all share a very particular bond together where we all used to live in Ireland at the same time, essentially. This is going way back, way back from a previous life of ours. But Danny Duran says, sorry I'm late, sure missed your show today. Well, you're not late, Dan. You're here, you're with us, you're part of the conversation. Danny goes on to say, Danny Elfman, I think that's when I was when I quizzed Josh. What is the next composer on this list? Danny got it as well, just the same as Josh. Danny Elfman, way to go. And lastly, Danny says, play in Rango. Play in Rango, and the one that they play in the Kingdom with Jamie Foxx.
Are those maybe like the scores or the sounds? Because was Rango Danny Elfman too?
Quite possibly. Let me go check that up. Doop boop boop doop doo. Josh, while I look this up, yeah. What was the one that they play in the Kingdom with Jamie Foxx? Was Jamie Foxx in Rango?
I don't believe so, but we can certainly check that out. The beauty of the internet.
Ooh, the beauty of the internet. Yeah, so let's see. I'm going through. Oh, let's see. This is the Wikipedia page. IMDb. There we go. IMDb knows all. Oh, sorry, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us for a second as we figure this out. Cast. I don't.
Johnny is the star of that. I know that.
Yeah. Let's see. Where's the cast and crew? There's the cast. See full cast. Here we go. Music by Hans Zimmer. So Hans Zimmer did the music for Rango. Apparently. Yeah, I don't know. Danny, if you're still watching, can you clarify that for us real quick? But yeah, I mean, like, I love all this stuff. I love just sitting around, chit-chatting, talking about it. And while we have Mr. Josh Hurley, I would like to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. I mean, you're an active voice actor. You narrate audiobooks. That ain't no easy feat. Josh, where can people find you online? And what projects do you have coming up in the near future?
Yeah, so I've been doing a couple audiobooks that have been a lot of fun. We just had one come out called Tower 57, which has got a nice sci-fi vibe to it. It's out now on Audible, and really cool. There's a whole lot of stuff. If you just go to audible.com, you can type me in and check out some of the stuff I've done there if you like. But yeah, there's always some good Halloween stuff. I did one with R.L. Stine called Camp Red Moon. Which is fun. It's for kind of R.L. Stine. He wrote one of them, and then 3 other authors wrote the other short stories, and that's on Audible too. So that's good Halloween. Well,
not only R.L. Stine, but I hope I'm not breaking any barriers in saying that one of the stars from the movie Halloween you've worked with.
Yeah, I got to be part of a fantastic project called Letters from Camp, which was co-created, I believe, and co-produced by Jamie Lee Curtis, which was so fun. I got to be part of that, which was a delight and wonderful. The whole production was fantastic. Co-produced by Audible, Kat over at Audible helped produce that too, and so much fun to be a part of. So to be able to get to be on a project with Jamie Lee Curtis was like dream come true, obviously. And she couldn't have been any sort of interaction I've had with her. I haven't got to talk to her personally, but she's been nothing but awesome and cool. So Letters from Camp, definitely check that out too.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for helping me talk about all of these, weird things that go on in the world, and all the new projects and new announcements, and we spent a lot of time talking about movie scores. So thank you so much for taking time and for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh, also really quick, I want to mention I got to work with Miss Tracy Mull on a project that was so great, so fun, and the cast has been spectacular. It's called Knock 'Em Dead, and so that's been fun too, to get to work.
Now,
with
the last time that we had Tracy Mull on the show, she was plugging this project as well. Forgive me if I get the rudimentaries of this incorrect, but essentially, the story, it's a live show, first of all. And what was the name of it again?
Called Knock 'Em Dead.
It's an improvised, scripted kind of narrative of two skeletons that come out of their graves, and they put on a show for the moon. Correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's that's the log line right there. It's two skeletons come back, two vaudeville performing skeletons who used to be vaudeville performers come back to life. The moon demands a show, so they put on this sort of cemetery-based show using all their sort of, it's like a trunk show basically in the cemetery, and they just kind of put the show on for the moon, and silliness and chaos ensue. There's singing, there's dancing, there's bits, there's magic, there's all sorts of crazy stuff.
Now, I understand that it has been filmed. Do you know when it's going to be released, when we can see it, when we can stream it?
We're still talking about if streaming is something that we can do, and like how that's going to work and stuff. But if we do end up filming it, if we do end up doing anything with it, I'll certainly let you know. Maybe if you want to post it, we could post it I'll post it in the comments below.
Yeah, I'd love to see it
when I find it. But yeah, thank you. Thanks for mentioning that. It's the people who are doing it are fantastic.
And you co-wrote it. You co-wrote the show.
I'm not in it. Tracy stars and has directed, and I feel like has put on so many hats.
Your brother's in it as well, right? He's playing the moon?
Yeah, he plays the moon. He does a great job with it. Ted Bondman is in it as Tracy's counterpart. Some fantastic. A lot of comedy projectors are in it. So it's a really fun project. Cool. So
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. And anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking some time out of your busy day for coming to hang out and chit-chat some movies with us. If you like this video, please click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share. Because that is exactly what two vaudevillian skeletons from Pocatello, Idaho would want you to do. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Brown. This is Gotta Love Them Movies, your daily dose of movie news. We live in a weird, wacky world where everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, and sometimes those thoughts and opinions clash with one another. So if you have an opportunity to infuse a little bit of kindness into the world, please, I implore you, take that opportunity. Please speak kind words to each other. And until tomorrow, have a most beautiful evening.